Every few years, Hollywood runs out of ideas, and when that happens, they go through their bag of previous IPs in the graveyard that were kind of popular and try to figure out how to bring it back, either through a reboot, a revival, or a sequel. Suddenly, the show you watched every day after school is back. Same theme song, or maybe a new updated version of it. Same cast or totally different cast, with the old cast making a few cameos. Maybe a few extra laugh lines on everyone's faces, and for about 30 seconds, you're excited. Your favorite show is finally back, but then you watch it and something is off. It feels like running into someone you used to know, but then realizing maybe there's a reason you two don't talk anymore. The connection was real, but it was real back then, and now you're both just standing here pretending like it's the good old days. That's the revival slash reboot problem, and it's not new, it's not getting better, and it keeps happening because nostalgia is cheap and original ideas are hard to come by. That's why Pixar somehow is releasing Toy Story 5 this year, even when I think we can all agree that the original story ended at Toy Story 3 and no one remembers Toy Story 4. But I will say The Incredibles 3 is coming out and I'm very excited. I think stories in threes are fine. That's why I think Cars 1, 2, and 3 are great movies, but that's not our focus for today. Some of them actually work. Not most, not even close to most, but a few revivals come back and somehow have more to say than the original ever did. So today I'm breaking down why these things keep failing, which ones beat the odds, and what actually separates a network cash grab from a comeback. And before we truly get into any of these, we need to clear something up, because reboots, revivals, and sequels are not the same word, and everyone uses them interchangeably like they are. So let's define each one and give an example. A revival is usually the same cast, same characters, kind of picks up where things left off. Maybe there's a time jump in some way. Think stuff like Raven's Home, Fuller House. Well, Raven's Home is technically a spinoff, but they brought back an IP from years ago. Fuller House, iCarly, those are revivals. Reboots, same concept, new cast, new timeline. Think like Bel-Air, the new Harry Potter TV show, that Baywatch movie with The Rock and Zac Efron, 21 and 22 Jump Street movies. Then sequels are a continuation, but can be treated as a standalone project. Often will take place 10 plus years after the original movie or show. Think something like Zoe 102, the movie, Good Burger 2, Bad Boys 3 and 4, and Hocus Pocus. Now that we cleared that all up, let's start with Saved by the Bell. The original version of Saved by the Bell ran from 1989 to 1993. 4 seasons, Saturday morning staples, Zach Morris, AC Slater, Screech, Kelly Kapowski, and Lisa. And if you grew up in that era, you know exactly what I'm talking about. In 2020, Peacock brought it back for some reason with a new main cast, new students, and the same Bayside High, and they actually had an interesting angle. Zach Morris is now the governor of California, and he gets caught closing low-income schools, so he shuffles those displaced students into the wealthy schools, including Bayside. And that's the real premise. Yes, it is weird. Yes, it sounds like Zach Morris is still kind of an asshole.
When I wake up in the morning, the alarm gives out a warning. I don't think I'll ever make it on time. By the time I grab my books and I give myself a look, I'm at the corner, just in time. It's alright.
But here's the thing, it got 2 seasons and then it just was kind of gone. I don't think it was a big hit or anything. No big cancellation announcement, no finale, no closure. It just stopped. Actually, a good chunk of these reboots and revivals are on streaming networks like Paramount, Netflix, and Peacock. So yeah, take with that what you will. But it's also the pattern I want to talk about. Saved by the Bell isn't alone. The Rugrats reboot, 2 seasons on Paramount Plus, done. And I actually like that show. The Twilight Zone revival with Jordan Peele, 2 seasons on CBS All Access, done. Zoe 102, which was supposed to be a movie that finally resolved the ending of Zoe 101's cliffhanger from 2008, felt like it was written over a weekend and filmed over the following week. And I don't mean that as a joke. The thing had the energy of a school project that was due the next morning. It was all over the place, but hey, they did their thing. So here's my theory on all these. I don't think that these shows were greenlit by somebody because they had a vision. I think they were greenlit for contractual reasons, or the streaming services just needed shows to fill up their roster. They just make a new version of an old IP, an old show. That's a real thing in Hollywood, where studios have to actively develop an IP or the rights revert back to original IP holders. So what do? You make something, anything. It's kind of like Sony right now with Spider-Man. They have to continue making Spider-Man adjacent movies in order to retain the rights to Spider-Man. That's why you get Madam Web and Morbius and Yeah, you just need something on paper that says, yes, we're still using this IP. One season, maybe two, and then it goes back to the graveyard from where it come. The audience isn't stupid. We can feel when something was made for us versus when something was made to satisfy a licensing agreement, and that's exactly what most of these are, unfortunately. Now, when a reboot or a revival is done right, you can feel it. Sometimes the reboots end up going on longer than the original series. Not always, but sometimes. One of my favorite revivals is called Cobra Kai. It is based on the Karate Kid movies, but this version focuses heavily on Johnny Lawrence as a loser adult and Daniel LaRusso as a very successful businessman who owns a car dealership. But at the same time, the main focus of the show is the new generation of kids who want to learn karate. It's very much a soap opera and the most dramatic show ever. Everybody's fighting all the time in school. It's crazy, but I love it. By the way, this show actually started as a YouTube original and then Netflix bought it, which just goes to show how great that first season was. But then there's also another revival that got it right, and that's Raven's Home, which is also, I guess, technically a spin-off. That's another version. That's So Raven ran from 2003 to 2007 for 4 seasons, was the longest running show on Disney Channel at the time. And then Raven's Home was picked up in 2017 and wrapped up its 7th season in 2024. 7 seasons. The revival outlasted the original by 3 whole seasons. Let that sink in. And here's why it worked. Raven's Home wasn't about bringing back That's So Raven. It was about Raven Baxter as a mom. Her kid has the same psychic abilities that she had, and now she has to navigate that from the other side. The premise evolved. The show had somewhere new to go, and that's the difference. And halfway between season 3 and 4, the show evolved again, moving Raven back home with her father and introducing a new set of characters, and I guess getting rid of her daughter. I don't know how that one worked. iCarly is another one. The Paramount Plus revival started in 2021, and look, it's not perfect, but it understood something that most revivals don't. The audience that watched iCarly on Nickelodeon in 2007 is now in their mid-20s, so the show actually started writing for that audience. The humor had more edge, there were a few more bad words. The storyline dealt with adult situations, and it didn't pretend that everyone was still in middle school. I will say that Carly was still Carly and Freddie was still Freddie, and of course our brother Spencer was still Spencer, but just rich this time. Freddie had been through it. He'd been through a divorce. He had a daughter, and Carly and Freddie started dating. Unironically, this show was actually good. Carly and Freddie dating at the last episode. Okay, actually, I'm going to go into more detail. If you don't want to hear the spoilers for iCarly, then skip forward a little bit. So Carly and Freddie are about to get married, and right at the last moment, Carly's mom shows up. I kid you not. That's the last episode we see before the show was finally canned. We don't even see the mom. They didn't finish the wedding. Like, it's just a total cliffhanger. I hate that, but good show. Also, as I was writing this, apparently iCarly is coming to Netflix. They're making a movie, and I really hope that they'll wrap up that storyline finally. I'm very excited to see that. Then there's Bel-Air, which is technically a reimagining, same premises as Fresh Prince, but it was a completely different tone. It took a dramatic soap opera approach instead of the comedic and silly, lighthearted on-set approach, and it worked because it didn't try to be Fresh Prince. It looked at the concept and asked, what if we made this story and played it completely differently, played it straight and realistic? They made Jeffrey's character like this ex-mobster guy that really puts the family in a lot of difficult situations. And then there's King of the Hill and Futurama, 2 shows that were canceled, missed, and then came back with something to say. Futurama had already been canceled like 2 times before, but kept returning because the writers and the people who liked the show just wanted it to say more. And King of the Hill came back recently, like last summer, and it was amazing. The whole world around Hank Hill had changed, and he had to adjust to this new updated world. Bobby is now an adult now. Like, it's really good. Well, all these have in common is simple, right? Somebody felt that these stories genuinely had more to say. They were missed by an original audience, and they respected the original audience. The IP was the starting point, not the finish line. So here's the thing about reboots, revivals, and sequels. They're not going anywhere. As long as there's an IP sitting in a vault somewhere with name recognition attached to it, somebody is going to greenlight something. That's just the business. There's a difference between a studio dusting off an old property because they have to. Oh my goodness, what if they made a live action Cars movie? But there's a difference between dusting off an old property because they have to and a creator coming back to the world because they genuinely have more to say. Look, the audience will show up, but nostalgia doesn't keep people watching. Story does. Characters do. Having an actual reason to exist does. The ones that work, they use nostalgia as the door. They get you in the room and then they give you something new to sit down for. Cobra Kai didn't succeed because people remembered the Karate Kid. It succeeded because Johnny Lawrence turned out to be a genuinely interesting character separate from the Cobra Kai movies. Like, it as its own series, it is good. Like, Raven's Home didn't succeed because people missed That So Raven. It succeeded because Raven as a mom is fundamentally different and a richer story. Her kids now have something to say. Very much some of the similar situations her mom went through, but it didn't start out with her son having powers. Like, we worked towards that. So I do want to know, what revival or reboot do you think actually got it right, and which one do you wish had never happened? Drop it in the comments, because honestly, some of you probably have takes that I haven't even considered. And if there's a specific reboot or revival that you want me to do a deep dive on in the future video, let me know. You know where to drop the comments. As always, thank you guys for watching.